Panopto is really designed for lecture capture, and there are some pros and some cons. I only really have a couple of slides before I get into actually showing you how this works. But I just want to kind of illustrate why you might use Panopto, what it can do, and what it can't do. The first thing is it's very handy for recording multiple screens and inputs. You see I have like at least 2 screens here. I have a document camera here and a webcam. Panopto can actually record all those things simultaneously. So if you want to do your slides on one screen and want to do some software or a website on another screen, if you have the capability, Panopto can record all of those things. It does work really well with PowerPoint. In fact, Panopto is kind of greedy when it comes to PowerPoint. So if you're using Turning Points, I know some of you folks may use Turning Points. You always want to use Turning Point, start that first before you use Panopto. Otherwise, they can conflict with each other, which is one of the cons. But the really nice thing about it is that Panopto tracks all of your transitions in your PowerPoint slides, and then it creates bookmarks for the students. So they can easily, when they're watching the recordings, they can easily go from one point in the presentation to another point to focus in on that one area that they're having trouble understanding. The final pro I have is that it's very easy to use if the internet is slow and unavailable. That is one of the questions we've gotten, is that what do I do if I'm living out in the countryside and I don't have great internet? Well, Panopto records the session locally, and then it progressively uploads stuff in the background. And so it may take a little while to get online, but eventually it will get there. So you may have to try a couple of times to get it online. So if you have slow internet, if you're living in the countryside or somewhere else that doesn't have great internet, you can still use Panopto. It just may take a little while longer to get there. One of the big cons is that it is asynchronous, so you cannot do really a live session. You can do what's called a webcast, but there is a lag of about a minute or so. So if anybody tried to respond, they couldn't really do that. And it really is just a broadcast. It's not anything they can the students can't talk to you back. So if you want to do a synchronous, that would be the Zoom session next door in 121. As I mentioned before, it can kind of conflict with some of the software. So you may have to experiment a little bit and see which way works for you. And then finally, one of the biggest challenges is that it can be a little bit hard to reuse some of the Panopto content. So if you want to share it from semester to semester, you can make that happen. It takes a little bit of doing to make that work. I know Marianne Cohen here, she was like, yep. I've been through there, but it can be done. So there's really 3 main steps for using Panopto, and I've kind of outlined those steps on the handout here, which I'll definitely make this available to everybody on our website at some point, or maybe refine this a little bit. Basically, the first step is you need to enable Panopto recordings in your Canvas course. So all the tools that we're showing today, Panopto, Zoom, and Canvas are all basically done through Canvas. You can use Panopto offline, outside of Canvas if you want, but you just need to make sure that you're still talking to Canvas when you try to upload your recordings. The next step is once you have Panopto enabled in your course, then you have to actually create the recording. And that part can take a lot of different varieties, and we'll go through some of those options. Once you've created the recording, then the students have to watch the recording. So, so really it's just about making sure that recording is available for students to watch. And then after students have done, or after you have assigned the students to watch the recording, an optional step I included here is that you can use the analytics to see which students are watching and how much time they're spending on your recording, as well as like kind of where they're actually focusing their attention. So it's kind of nice. Okay. So let's talk about Panopto. So I created this course. It's just a Panopto Quick Start course, and it's just a blank Canvas course. There's nothing in that whatsoever. Because I just want to essentially start everybody from scratch on a blank page. Your course may look a little different, that's fine, but this is the basic Canvas course. So in Canvas, I will scroll down and I will look for the settings button down here. I click on settings, and now I will go to my navigation tab. So there's course details, and there's the navigation tab at the top there. And this shows you the outline of all of the items in your course menu over here. So if you need to get rid of anything, which I highly recommend if you're not using something, then you can just simply click and drag that object down to the bottom of the menu. And now anything that's below this line is going to be hidden from view. And so we're going to look for Panopto recordings, and we're going to drag that up into the top of the list. So there it is at the top of the list. Scroll down to the bottom and hit save. Okay, so there it is in my course menu now. So Panopto recordings is available. All I have to do is click the button, and there it is. So this is my Panopto interface. So by default, Panopto is going to create a folder for all of your recordings that's going to be tied to your course. Yes, you have a question in the back. If you like. So the question was, I don't have this currently enabled in my course, but you're using Panopto? Oh, your distance course. Okay, yes, yes, okay. So yeah, if you're teaching a distance course, then IT Media Services is essentially doing all that work for you. If you're not teaching a distance course, then yes, you would need to go through the steps for enabling the Panopto recordings in your course. Sure, yeah. So if you want to do it right now, that's fine. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything to turn on in your course. So, because the students in your course are probably accessing the Panopto recordings for a distance course in another way. This is really for people just to get them online and using some form of lecture capture for their recordings. So there's the Panopto interface. So to get started, I will just hit create and say record a new session. Now at this point, one of two things is going to happen. If you already have Panopto, you can just click open Panopto. Otherwise, you would click download Panopto and it's going to install Panopto on your system. And you will need to be an administrator on your computer to do that. So if you're at home, you should be able to do that just fine. If you're on campus and trying to install it in your office computer, you may or may not have administrative privileges, in which case you can contact the IT help desk and they can make sure that it gets installed. Yes, in the back.
You know, if we're doing the classroom, we try to do this inside a classroom, is it already enabled?
Yes, so the question is Panopto enabled in the classrooms? And the answer is yes. So if you are using a classroom, I've been told that the classrooms are going to be open. So if you want to go into a classroom and use a classroom for recording your lectures, you should be able to do that just fine because Panopto is installed on all of our classroom computers.
Okay, wait.
So you said Panopto is that it's installed in the classroom if you're using any of the campus computers in the classroom?
Yes.
Even if it is not downloaded in my Canvas account. If I'm using Canvas in the classroom.
Yes. So you'll still need to enable the Panopto recordings in your class. You still want to enable your Panopto recordings in your class so that when you click on this button, you click on open Panopto, it's going to go out and open the Panopto on the computer. So
But if I'm using my laptop, do I have to download it?
then you would have to download it first, yes.
Then it will automatically show up?
Yep. No. Okay.
This is so that it can be distributed through Canvas.
Yes.
What he's showing you is how to link it to your Canvas page so you can distribute it in a class through Canvas. Panopto is independent.
So, okay, so let me explain a little bit about the architecture. So Panopto by itself is a client that gets installed on your computer. That client talks to Canvas. When you create recordings in Panopto, those recordings are going to be available through your Canvas interface. That's how it works. So all Canvas is doing is just passing you through to a Canvas portal on the back end, and it's showing you what your recordings are. Yes. Yes, you still have to enable Panopto recordings button in your course. So if you have not done step 1 on this sheet, you will need to do step 1. Regardless of whatever computer you're using. I'm sorry? There should be in the back there. Yes.
So when you do this recording, you save it, and then how the students will be able to access it.
We'll get to that point in just a minute, okay? we're still trying to get past this point here. So. Okay. So once I've enabled Panopto in my course, I'm going to create a recording. And as I said, one of two things will happen. You'll either download Panopto if you need to, or you'll open Panopto if it's already there. I'm going to,
Oh, it says launch application?
yep,
Which one do you click?
launch application.
Yeah, but when you do that, doesn't have that.
Well, a little bit it depends on your browser. If you're using Firefox, it looks a little differently.
So then open link.
Yep. Once I've fired up Panopto, this is what my interface looks like.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So there are some key areas to pay attention to on this interface. First one is the folder. So this is why you want to enable Panopto in your course and use the Panopto recordings through your Canvas course, is so that when you launch Panopto, it will automatically show up that it's the right folder. Otherwise, I have different options I can save it to. So, but you want it to be your course folder. So whatever that happens to be. You can also give it a name, and you'll have an opportunity to change the name at the end as well. Down here in primary sources, you have different the camera options. This room has all kinds of cameras, so we have several different options. We have the audio, which again, we have a couple of different options here. And then we have capture computer audio. If you're going to be playing videos or using some sort of audio stream through your lecture as part of your lecture, you'll probably want to use capture computer audio and check that box so that Panopto will capture the audio directly. It's not trying to capture it through the microphone that you're using. So it's a little bit technical, but sometimes it's a little better to do it that way. The key thing to know, the key, and if you need to write this down, I highly recommend you write this down, is you must have an audio source, a microphone, in order to use Panopto. It will not work without a microphone.
But it's probably in your computer. Maybe.
But yes, if you're using a laptop, it probably has a webcam / microphone. Yes, another question in the back?
Are all the campus classrooms automatically have a microphone?
The answer is no, but most of them do have a webcam microphone in them. So the question was, do all the campus computers have the technology? Most of them do, but not all of them.
So the webcam is mounted in the ceiling in most cases in civil gear.
Okay, then yes.
And they also have a microphone.
Yep. Yes. So yeah. Exactly. The smaller classrooms may not, so you may have to bring in a laptop or something to use that. But the key thing is to notice that you need to have an audio source in order to use Panopto. Otherwise, it just won't work. Down here, we have the secondary sources. So you can capture your PowerPoint, capture your main screen, and capture your second screen if you have one. You can add another video source. So I can add the document camera, and then I can use this area over here to preview any of those things. So this area in the middle here, this will show me what I'm capturing. So I'm going to go ahead and capture second screen on there just because. So now we have 4 different options that we're trying to capture all at once. Okay. So the final thing I wanted to show you is this little slider down at the bottom, the FPS slider. This determines the smoothness of the video in this particular section right here. And generally, I crank it up to about 15. So that's 15 frames per second. And that means when students are watching whatever's recorded on the screen, it's going to be a little bit smoother animation.
Which one of your numbers is that?
It's not on there. So really, I'm just going for the bare bones here. Okay, so when I'm ready to start recording, I just hit record. So the big red button up here. Okay, we are now recording live. So I'm recording my Panopto session that we got going on right here. Everything I'm doing on the screen is being recorded. So I got my PowerPoint slide or my Google slides over here. I'm going to launch my presentation over here. Oh, yes. So I can run through my PowerPoint slides. So this is actually a presentation I did for a class. Yeah, I use clicker questions. What?
It's only gonna record what we typically see on.
That's correct. It's only recording whatever I do on the screen. But I did tell it to record both screens, so it's actually recording what's going on both screens. Now, for this particular classroom arrangement, it's really main thing that's being recorded is this screen here. So anyway, so that's how that works. And then when I'm done, I'm going to exit that. I click on my little power green icon down here, and I say stop.
Which number was it?
Because of course you did.
Which number is the?
It's down there on number 7 under step 2. Yep. So when you're stopped, now you have the option of changing the session name. You can give it a description, and then I will say done. And then it's going to take me to this screen. It's going to show me that's uploading in the back, that was uploading. So depending on how long, your recording is will determine like how long it takes to upload, but Panopto is uploading in the background as you're going, so it usually takes only a minute or two. So we have faculty that use Panopto on a regular basis in the classrooms here, and they just wait like a minute after they're done teaching before logging out of the machine, and then it's good to go. And then I can just close the, I can either start a new recording or I can close. And then I can go back to my Canvas course. Click on Panopto Recordings. And there it is. Now it's ready to be watched. Well, it's almost ready to be watched. So when you get to this screen, it will take, again, it will depend on how much you recorded, how long it's going to take to finish processing on the back end so it can be streamed. For a short video like this, it shouldn't take very long. As soon as I see a thumbnail of my recording, I know I'm good to go. And we also have some settings that you can do. You can, I wouldn't worry too much about sharing it because that's really more advanced stuff. You can kind of edit the recording a little bit. You can kind of trim off. You can kind of trim off sections if you need to. And there's some other editing things you can do. Again, that's the more advanced stuff. If you don't like your recording, you can also delete it. So you can slowly start over. So still processing, still processing.
Well, while it's processing,
Okay.
on step 3 where it says viewer recording by students,
Yes,
that would be something good to send them in an email and or on a Canvas.
that's correct. That's correct. So I put those directions on watching, on students watching a recording because this is the information that you can give to your students and say, hey, I've created a Panopto recording. Here's how you get to it, and here's what you do. So there it is. I can say play this session. Okay. Got the big red button up here. Okay, we are now recording live. So I'm recording my Panopto session that we got going on right here. Everything I'm doing on the screen is being recorded. Panopto is put in
So
I got my PowerPoint slide, my Google slides over here, so I can just go to the different slides and say, okay, that's the slide I want to look at. Because I was recording more than one screen, only recording whatever I do on different options. But I did tell it to record both screens, so it's actually recording what's going on both screens. Camera or document camera. Now for this particular classroom arrangement, it's really writing a problem that's being recorded is the document camera. I could capture that. So anyway. So that's how that works. And then when there's the other screen. And then I can also use exit that to maximize. Click on my little power green icon down here. Maximize the video. And I say so. So this is all the stuff that students can do when they're watching the recordings. Yes.
Did you just do that live or was that part of the recording?
This is all part of the recording.
But, well, I know, but you expanded the screen.
That was the recording.
That was part of the recording.
That was part of the recording, yeah.
Something you did right now.
Well, I'm sorry. That was something I did right now.
So the recording is still individual windows
Yes.
that are composed together.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Can you size them?
You mean like size them differently?
For example, make your recording smaller and the PowerPoint bigger.
You can switch them, but you can't really resize them is what you're talking about
Can
there.
I resize them when I actually record it?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Pre-recording.
What?
When I start recording, can I size them before that?
No. No, you can't resize the content before. It's just recording the desktop and that's it.
So basically, the partition of your screen is given by Panopto.
Yes, I believe so, yes.
Thanks. That was my
So the partition, yeah, you can't really resize any of these pieces, bits and pieces over here. You can swap them and you can make them full screen, but you can't like resize the different areas that you have on the screen here. So like this line here, it doesn't move between the video port and the screen capture part. But you can swap them back and forth, and you can make them bigger, the full screen or non-full screen. So yes.
So there are 2 cameras, right?
Currently, I have 2 cameras. Well, actually 3 in this room.
Can I focus on one of them on the blackboard or whiteboard and keep writing and
So that is a good question about whether or not you can capture what's writing on the board. It's not recommended, and the reason is because it doesn't really, the cameras generally don't pick up writing on the blackboard or a whiteboard very well. So if you are going to be doing something like that, you're going to have to kind of rethink your strategy about how I'm teaching online. So either you provide the students the notes ahead of time, like right before class begins, or if you're in a classroom, you can use a document camera to write on the document camera, and that generally works a lot better. Yep. So the Panopto can use the document camera as a source. So if I go to create, oops, yeah, create, record a new session, open Panopto recorder. If you're in one of these classrooms, you can add another video source under here. Samsung Digital Presenter, I add that. Now it's going to record this. I do a recording.
okay, so anything I write on that paper should
Yep. So
So all the classrooms will have the document camera?
most do, not all of them do, I don't think. Yeah. Yes. Another question.
What if you were to connect an iPad, and let's say you were marking up the presentation on an iPad?
So that gets into the more of the advanced territory about as connecting an iPad to a Panopto.
Yeah.
It can be done, but it's a little tricky. And so I'm not going to go, I don't want to get into all the what if scenarios here because this is 30-minute crash course Panopto. But if you want to come back and experiment this afternoon, we can try that out. So, yeah, what?
Are we supposed to go to the classroom at the class time and do this recording, or can we just record at home and?
So yes, you can totally record at home, or if the classroom is open, you can go to a classroom and use the classroom. But if somebody else is already in there using the classroom, then you may have to figure something out.
I was gonna say, like, I teach in this room. So
Right.
could I come at my normal class time so that I'm not conflicting with other people?
Yes. They said that all the classrooms will be open now.
So okay, there you go. All the classrooms will be open. So if you want to come into a classroom during your regular teaching time and use Panopto Recorder to record your lecture and use all the technology in the room, fantastic.
this is more of a, I'm looking at the amount of
Yep. So the main screen really is the main screen of your desktop. So it says PowerPoint because it's specifically talking to PowerPoint because that's how it creates those the bookmarks. Yes. So if you're in a classroom with 2 screens and one's the main screen, okay. So Panopto was so if you're not sure which one's the main screen, Panopto does give you a preview option when you're setting it up. So whatever you have to do is just say enable screen capture preview, and then whatever the main screen is, that's your main screen. That's what's going to be captured on the main screen. If for some reason you want to add the other screen, you just say capture second screen. Now you have both screens captured. Yeah, so. Okay, and we do have some questions on Zoom. Okay, but it looks like the IT Media Services is handling some of those questions. So, okay, so thank you all for coming.
When are you giving the Star Trek?
That was like 2 years ago.
Well,
Uh,
thank you, Mel.
and yes, we did record this. So, and then Zoom is next door, and then there's yes. Good. I hope everybody learned something. Our office is in the library, so come visit, find us.